Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on again, Brittany.
Gold prices have hit historic highs since President Donald Trump unveiled his sweeping tariff policy. Now, the Trump store is hawking the presidential gold note. So to first start off the conversation, can you give us a brief background of what exactly the Trump store is?
Sure. The Trump store, it's been around for quite some time, around 2007, according to Internet Archive. And originally it had apprentice themed memorabilia, Trump University courses. It's really a relic of the internet from that era. Then it went offline somewhere around 2013, 14, and it just basically became a billboard for an actual retail store, physical retail store in Trump Tower. That changed again in 2017, during which time Donald Trump was in the White House. It relaunched, originally just selling merchandise that was pegged around his golf courses. There was nothing overtly presidential about it or political about it. But over time, that shifted. A couple of years into his first term, they debuted a soap set and some other products that showed the White House on it. There was a little bit of a media outcry, and they retreated and took those off the market. The soap set was my favorite. They're 3 bars of soap, and the middle one had the White House. After the outcry, they just took the wrapper off the middle bar of soap, so you'd still be getting 3 bars of soap, 2 of which were wrapped, 1 was unwrapped. But after he lost the election in 2020 to Joe Biden, they just went all in on MAGA. At first, it was a T45 collection of items pegged to his first presidency, but then they just kept adding more and more and more. Right now, if you go to look at the website, you can see it even has the Gulf of America hat, which is called another Trump development project. It even says, as seen on President Donald J. Trump. So, keeping the presidency separated from his online retail store, that's gone by the wayside at this point.
And so now you're seeing this latest merch, the presidential gold note. What details do you have about that?
Oh, boy. So it looks like it debuted around the inauguration time on Trump Coins, which is a company that bills itself as a partner of the Trump organization. It appears, though, that it just got on the Trump store's website itself on Tuesday. There's no evidence of it previously on archive.org. And, it was Tuesday they sent out the blast that said just arrived. And it's a gold note. It says on the front, it shows President Trump. It says approved by President Donald J. Trump on the front. On the back, it depicts the White House. So, gone are the days of taking the White House off the soap wrapper. Now it's just put it on this note. It also says presidential note. Comes with a little bit of gold baked into it, and is now on sale for $47, which was, of course, the number of Donald Trump's current presidency.
And so now we're seeing gold prices really skyrocket ever since President Trump's tariffs roiled global markets. These gold prices are hitting record highs. Is President Trump profiting off of how high gold is selling because of these gold notes?
He's certainly set up to do that. The notes, as I said, sell for $47. The amount of gold that they contain is worth about $11. That's a pretty decent spread there. It's not pure profit for the president, though. He does have a business partner in this. Not sure exactly how the profits are going to be split between Trump Coins and the Trump organization. And he also doesn't own all of the Trump store. Looking through his financial disclosures, he owns about 77.5% of it, with Trump family members owning the remainder. So, that it could bring in some money. He's worth about $4.9 billion. It's not going to be a ton of money for somebody with that wealth. But then again, this is a guy who famously cashed a check for 13 cents from Spy Magazine.
So really, it could only be a drop in the bucket for his multi-billion-dollar net worth. But the Trump store is saying this note, quote, will only go up in value. And you've reported that it's been described as a, quote, perfect keepsake for the patriot and the savvy investor. Are there ethical concerns here that President Trump's tariffs caused the price of gold to skyrocket, and now that the president could, however small, still potentially profit off of the price of gold?
Yeah, so I spoke with Danielle Caputo, who is the senior legal counsel for ethics at the Watchdog Campaign Legal Center. And she said, well, it didn't look like any ethics laws were being violated here because there really aren't many ethics laws that apply to the presidency. Did say that it raises legitimate concerns about whether Trump is acting in the public's best interest or his own.
And what is the White House saying? What's the Trump organization saying? What is the Trump store even saying when you're flagging these ethical concerns?
So they didn't respond to me this time when I reached out to them, but they did in January. The president's attorneys put out an ethics white paper that pointed out that the Constitution does not prohibit the president from owning or managing a business, and also said that the asset is held in a trust, which is also correct. Now, it is a revocable trust. Trump can withdraw money from any time. He's the sole provider of assets into the trust and also its sole beneficiary. So saying it's in a trust is kind of just making it sound more removed from him than it really is.
I'm a little hung up on something that the Trump store said about this presidential note. Should someone read into them saying that the gold note will only go up in value? Is that a marketing ploy, or does that say something about President Trump's tariff plan where the price of gold is going to continue to go up while the stock market, is in chaos?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Trump store didn't get back to me when I reached out to them. I actually didn't ask them that. It didn't even dawn on me. But it is a good question. My take on it, reading the whole ad, is that part of the reason they think it's going to go up that they're saying it's definitely going to go up is not just the amount of gold in there, but also the fact that it has Donald Trump's face on the front and is tied to his presidency in that regard.
When you're thinking back to modern presidents, you don't really see a president that's tied so closely to the merch, because when you see anyone in a red hat now, you automatically link it to MAGA, you link it to President Trump, the Make America Great Again hat. How much overall are you saying that, or seeing that the TrumpStore.com made in sales?
Well, according to his latest financial disclosures, which were from August 2024, we can look back and see what they made in 2023, and that was about $2.7 million in total sales. So again, not a ton of money, but looking back through all of his financial disclosures, it is steadily increased, since it came back online in 2017.
The Trump store faced some criticism, as you said earlier in this conversation, in President Trump's first term over hawking some merch with the White House on it. This presidential gold note does also have the White House on it. What are you looking out for next?
More merchandise. There's nothing seeming to be stopping, Trump from trying to profit off the presidency. The retail merchandise on the Trump store being connected to his presidency. So I suspect we're just going to see more and more of this. And it's certainly been the case. We talked earlier about him selling, putting out an alert on election day itself, hawking merchandise. And within hours of Kamala Harris conceding, they had more 47 themed merchandise out there. So it's not surprising at all. We mentioned that earlier, that Gulf of America hat. You're seeing merchandise out there that is pegged specifically to a policy decision. So it would not surprise me if we see more of that going forward.
Well, Zach Everson, per usual, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.